Okay, then this conversion factor here. So which conversion factor do we know that includes both units, both feet and meters? Because that's what we're going. We're going from feet to meters. So we just did that one. So what was that? We said that 1 meter equals 3.28 feet. Okay, so we're going to do this unit conversion. We're starting with the information that we have. We have 48.3 feet. That's what we know. That's what we're starting with. So we're going to start with 48.3 feet. And we're going to multiply that by a conversion factor. Here's the conversion factor, but which one are we going to put on top and which one are we going to put on bottom? Yeah, because we're going to put feet on bottom because then we're going to have feet divided by feet. Feet on the top of the fraction, feet on the bottom of the fraction. So those are going to cancel. And we're going to put meters on top. I always fill in units first before I do anything with numbers. Because then I know when I look at this, I know that my feet are going to cancel. So my answer's going to be in meters. I do all math on the units before I do anything with numbers. Then I'm going to go back and fill in my numbers. So here's my conversion factor. 1 meter equals 3.28 feet. Okay, do the math. You try plugging it in before I do it. What do you get? Remember that a fraction is division. Okay, when I do this, I'm doing 48.3 times 1, so I'm not going to bother punching that in, divided by 3.28. And I get 14.73. Does that match what you got? Yeah? Okay, good. All right. Let's pause right now. Right now, we're 2 problems in. Show me thumbs up, thumbs down, somewhere in between. Let me see. Okay. This can be kind of difficult, like, to figure out what you're doing here. But once you do, it should be a really useful thing for like, lots of real life kinds of things. Okay. And then always think about it. Is a meter bigger or smaller than a foot? So is your answer bigger or smaller than that? So if we have 48.3 feet, we should have a lot less meters, because if we have 48.3 feet, well, a meter's bigger than a foot, so there should be fewer, like about a third amount of meters as we do feet. Next one then, if you are traveling 235 miles at 71 miles per hour, how long will that take you in minutes? Okay, we got a lot of units going on here. We have miles for sure. We also have miles per hour, but miles per hour really is a conversion factor. Because if you got 71 miles per hour, that's a conversion factor. It means you're going 71 miles equals 1 hour. 71 miles per every 1 hour. How long will it take you in minutes? So we are going to have minutes in there, but aren't we also going to have hours involved? Because if we have miles per hour, we're going to have to deal with hours somewhere, and then turn those hours into minutes. Our starting information, our given information, is 235 miles. And 71 miles per hour is also given information, but remember that's not really your starting thing, that's one of your conversion factors. So let's skip down real quick to here, this one. It says, what unit conversions do you know that include relevant units? Well, one of them is going to be this. That's 71 miles in 1 hour. Because you're going 71 miles per every hour. And then, well, let's go back up a second, though. What unit do we want our answer to be in? It says if you're traveling 235 miles at 71 miles per hour, how long will it take you in minutes? So what does our final answer need to be in minutes? Okay, so if this is one of our conversion factors, what else are we going to need to deal with? We've got a conversion factor that's going to turn miles into hours, but we want our answer to be in minutes. So we need another conversion factor that's going to deal with hours and minutes. So we also know that 1 hour equals 60 minutes. All right, when we write out the whole unit conversion, we start with the information that we are given in the problem. 235 miles. So if we want to get rid of miles, and we're started with miles on the top of a fraction, which I didn't write this as a fraction. Could I, though? If I were to write this as a fraction, wouldn't I just do this? Yeah. So I need to get rid of miles. If I got miles on the top right here, miles is going to have to be on the bottom over here so that they're going to cancel. So what was my conversion factor that involved miles and something else? This one right here, miles and hours. So I've got a conversion factor that says 71 miles is equal to 1 hour. If I set it up like this, my miles are going to cancel. I'm going to need one more step here because I want my answer to be in minutes. So I'm going to need another conversion factor that gets rid of hours and turns it into minutes. So if I have hours on the top, and the next conversion factor is going to have hours on the bottom so that they cancel out, and minutes on the top. So I'm going to check my units first. Miles and miles are going to cancel because I got top and bottom. Miles divided by miles is 1, it cancels. Hours and hours is going to cancel because I've got 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom. It's divided by itself equals 1, it cancels. Which means what unit am I left with? Minutes. So if my answer is in minutes, is that good? Is that what I wanted? Yeah, that's what I wanted, so that's good. It means I got it set up right. I got to finish filling in numbers though. So 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. Now, when I type this into my calculator, I need to be careful because my calculator does not understand order of operations unless you tell it to. Your calculator is only as smart as you tell it to be. If you plug this in, depending what order you plug this in without any parentheses, it's going to do it in whatever order you plug it in. So I need to be really careful with that. I'm going to rewrite just my numbers here with everything on the top and everything on the bottom. So on the top, I have 235, oops, that's a 5 times 1 times 60, and that's all in parentheses. And on the bottom, I have 1 times 71 times 1, all in parentheses. Then, because of the little tiny calculator I have without parentheses, I'm going to do this just one step at a time. So I'm going to do first everything on the top, and I'm going to do 235 times 1 times 60, and that gives me 14,100. And then I'm going to do the bottom. It's 1 times 71 times 1 is 71. Then I'm going to do the next step. 14,100 divided by 71, and that's going to give me 198.6 minutes. Okay so far? Okay, let's finish this on Monday. No homework. This packet right here is set up kind of as a tutorial, so we're going to step through this together. I'm going to skip this first part for now because then I'm going to have you go through, and a lot of these things you're going to look up. But actually right now, why don't you skim through those? Are there ones that you know right away, like right off the top of your head? Like what? Maybe like 1 day is how many hours? How many hours is 1 day? Actually, yeah. So let's just fill in the ones we know right now. 1 day is 24 hours. What else do we know right now?
1 hour is 60 minutes.
1 hour is 60 minutes. What else do you know? Caden? 1 minute, 60 seconds. Okay, take like a minute right now and fill in all the ones you know. Any other ones we can look up later? Okay, these are the ones that I know off the top of my head. I know that 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer. I know that 5,280 feet is 1 mile. 2.2 pounds is a kilogram. I don't know that one off the top of my head. A gallon is 4 quarts, right? 1,000 milliliters is 1 liter. A day is 24 hours. An hour is 60 minutes. 60 minutes, or 1 minute is 60 seconds. A meter is 1,000 millimeters. A meter is 100 centimeters. 1 spider is equal to how many legs? 8. A raccoon is equal to how many ears? Typically 2. A hand is typically equal to how many fingers? Let's say 5 and not argue about the whole like is the thumb a finger thing. A pair of shoes is typically 2 shoes. My minivan fits 7 passengers. I know you can't have 8, but I'm gonna put 7 because that's what fits in my car. A class, this class has 27 students. As a pound, 16 ounces. Yeah. Okay, what about this one? While going 60 miles per hour, 1 hour equals how many miles? 60, because it means 60 miles per 1 hour. A year is how many days? A tricycle is how many wheels? A human is how many eyes? A gallon to liters, we'll leave that one for later. Okay, then we're looking at these. So what's 2 divided by 2? What is that? 1. What's 482 divided by 482? Elena, what is it? What's 100 divided by 100? Sydney, what's 100 divided by 100? What's 52,093 divided by 52,093? Alyssa, what is it? 1. What's 73.8 divided by 73.8? Oliver, what is it? 1. What's anything divided by itself? 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. You can do any math you can do on numbers. You can do on units too. Anything divided by itself is 1. So if 2 divided by 2 is 1, anything divided by itself is 1. What's seconds divided by seconds? What is it? What's anything divided by itself? 1. What's seconds divided by seconds? What's anything divided by itself? 1. What's yards divided by yards? 1. What's a millimeter divided by a millimeter? 1. What's anything divided by itself? 1. What's a fluber boober divided by a fluber boober? 1. What's anything divided by itself? 1. You can do all the same math you do on numbers. You can do it on units too. So what basically happens if you divide something by itself is it cancels it. So like seconds divided by seconds equals 1. You effectively canceled that unit. If you divide a unit by itself, it cancels that unit. It makes that unit go away. That unit is no longer there. Anything divided by itself is 1, including a unit. A unit divided by itself is 1. So when doing unit conversions, so what we're looking at is unit conversions, not the prefixes like we were doing, which, I mean, yeah, I guess those are involved in there, like 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. But we can also take all kinds of different unit conversions. What we're looking at is we're trying to turn 1 unit into another unit. We're trying to say how many ears would there be for 14 raccoons. We would be using a unit conversion like this. So one of our examples of unit conversions is that 365 days equals 1 year. Is it also true that 1 year equals 365 days? Yep. So that is called a unit conversion, saying this is equal to this. 365 days is equal to 1 year. When we write the unit conversions, when we're doing this, it's actually called dimensional analysis. When we write the unit conversions, we're going to write it as a fraction. And it doesn't matter which way it goes. You can put it either direction. And it does matter which way it goes depending on how the rest of your unit conversion is set up, like what unit you're starting with and what unit you're trying to end up in. So we could write a unit conversion. This right here means that 365 days equals 1 year. This one right here means that 1 year equals 365 days. Same thing. And depending on whether we are trying to cancel, get rid of the unit days, or trying to get rid of the unit years, we might do it one direction or the other. So we'll look at that one as an example. Okay, here's the problem we're trying to do. Here's the conversion. We're trying to figure out how many days there are in 3 years. So we can look at what units are involved here. So in this problem, how many days are in 3 years? What are the units that are involved in this? There's 2 units involved in here. What are they? Sam? Days and years. So days and years, those are the 2 units that are involved. What information is given? Meaning, what information do we have to start with? 3 years right there. That's our given information. That's the information we have to start with. So our given information is 3 years. That's what we're starting with. And what unit are we trying to turn it into? Days. Starting with 3 years, trying to turn it into days. So do we know a conversion factor that includes both days and years? We know that 1 year equals 365 days. So we know that our conversion factor is that 1 year equals 365 days. So that conversion factor is going to end up looking like a fraction. It's going to look like either one of those 2 ways. Remember that a fraction is really just a division problem. So if we look at this one right here, we're going to have years times days. We're ignoring numbers right now, just look at the units. We're going to end up with years times days divided by years. So what's going to happen with our units right here? Do we have years on the top and years on the bottom? So we have years divided by years. What's years divided by years? 1. What's anything divided by itself? 1. So if we've got years on the top of the fraction and years on the bottom of the fraction, they are going to cancel. Which means what information, what unit do we have left? What unit is our answer going to be in? In days. So right there, we did the math only on the units. What if we set up our conversion factor the other way? So we're still starting with 3 years. We still have our conversion factor that says a year is equal to 365 days. But we have 2 different ways that we could write that conversion factor. What's happening to our units right here? We've got years times years on the top divided by days. Is there any unit in this, the way it's set up here, is there any unit that's going to cancel? No, our answer is going to end up being in years squared, because what's anything times itself is squared, over days. Is that what we want our answer to be in? Years squared over days? Does that really mean anything to us? So do you see how these 2 are set up differently? Same given information, same conversion factor, but when we set it up this way, we're able to cancel out that unit years because it's on the top and on the bottom. Years is divided by itself, so it cancels, and our answer is left in days. But this one right here, we're ending up with years squared over days because we've got years times years on the top and then over days. Is this confusing so far or okay? Yeah? Okay. Okay. So then it says, remember that a unit divided by itself cancels. Do the math on the units in both of the above options. We did that. Circle the option that cancels years and leaves the answers in days. So that's going to be this one. The years were divided by themselves. We had the year on the top and the year on the bottom. Year divided by year equals cancels equals 1. And then we're going to rewrite the whole conversion factor. And it says showing your work. When we do any kind of problems in here, we always show our work, and that means like showing all the steps and having units on every step. Especially something like this is all about the units. Like the numbers really aren't as important here as the units are, being able to follow what math is happening on the units. So if we rewrite this whole thing, what it's going to look like, we're going to end up starting with 3 years, because that's the information we have to start with. And we're trying to turn it into days, so I'm going to set up my conversion factor and say that 1 year equals 365 days. When I do that, I see that I've got years on the top, years on the bottom, which means years divided by years. That unit is going to cancel. And my answer is going to be left in days. So I do the math on the units first. Then I go back and do the math on the numbers. So if I do the math on the numbers, I'm going to end up with 3 times 365 equals, because there's no parentheses on this cheapo little calculator, and then divided by 1. And I've got 1,095 days. Okay, grab a calculator if you don't have one next to you right now, so that you have that nearby as we go through this. Okay, next one. Use this problem to answer the following questions. How many meters are in 48.3 feet? So, first question says, what units are involved? What units do we have here? Kool-Aid, what units are involved?
Meters and feet.
Meters and feet. What information do we start with? What information is given in the problem? McKenna, what information is given in the problem? 48.3 feet. What unit do we want the answer to be in? Gretchen? We have feet. We know that's 48.3 feet. What are we trying to turn that into?
Meters.
Into meters. We're trying to turn it into meters. Okay, we need to go and fill in some of those conversion factors because we don't have this conversion factor right now. So let's do that.